two hardest things in computer science, naming things and cache invalidation. So that's where I do see most of the opportunity to avoid just kind of painful runaway costs on service usage, as with this GraphQL caching, and also to just speed up what normally you didn't think you needed to cache, or you just didn't before. Once you start asking for it as an API as opposed to an entire page bolted together and shipped, you have to start caching differently. And not everybody knows how to do it or even what's worth caching, and you don't find out until you really start digging. But if you're doing this type of work, you're not likely to have enough time to dig into all of these different pages and all these API requests. And that's where something like Stellate allows you to just put this blanket over it. I want the developers to be in control of it. So a person who's working as closely as possible to where the API requests are happening should be the ones in control of the cache management. And I don't necessarily want to give those people all access to our DNS. So I view Stellate as in the right zone of the developer. They're the ones trying to optimize this. They should be the ones allowed to manage the cache. So Stellate was a recommendation again from the developers because we had these slow origin API responses. And so most of the complaints from the business were about the speed of some specific pages, which then really it was very specific requests, these queries that took too long. And after you dig in, you find out that there isn't anything we can do at the origin, at least not for months. So then how can we figure out how to cache this? And GraphQL has some black magic in it. I can't quite understand how all of it works, but it does create very complicated queries. And I think in some of those cases, we were getting kind of inadvertently burned by some of these queries that were involving multiple API requests or different SQL queries to be run that we didn't anticipate. And when you don't own the database, you can't even necessarily know what was run, like what was executed against the database. So you don't know. So it takes quite a bit of time and coordination to get into that level of detail. So with Stellate, we could skip that and just cache the response. So now you can say, these are the issues that we want to solve. Let's speed this up. And so then working with your team, you're able to figure out, how can we do it? What should we cache? And then able to bring down some of our costs at these different services that are charging per API request, and able to speed up the user's experience or perceived experience when they're actually browsing the site. So I would say GraphQL on its own certainly doesn't solve all the problems, but it does introduce some new caching complexity that you don't have otherwise. And so what you were able to do with Stellate was resolve those caching issues so that you essentially have either a permanent fix or time to fix the underlying problem because you've got the cover of Stellate. And then basically, because you're always finding the next problem. So you say, all right, here's one that we can cache. All right, how long can we cache it? Is it worth it? All right, here's a runaway cost area. Okay, let's not ask for that on every page load or as often as we were. Let's cache that. So it becomes a lot about caching. E-commerce retail e-commerce has been pushing a lot further than many other industries. And so I think there's a stronger network of people working on this in retail. You'll see more of the service providers focused on retail as their business industry target because there's just so much happening at these e-com transactions that need to push this limit. They need to find ways to make this faster, smarter, cheaper, and they just have so many people buying online. So what I'm seeing now is that you've got this early adoption in e-com of all these services, and now you're solving problems for PUMA. They're going to be beneficial for someone in any other B2B environment or kind of direct to consumer, but maybe not such high volume. But you're be able to solve these problems for everybody. But I do see that e-com is the one bloodying their nose on a lot of these AI search and AI-based, machine learning-based recommendations. We've been doing this for years. A lot of people right now are getting into AI. People forget that we've been doing it for a long time. It's when traffic spikes to, I would say, in general, 10,000 plus concurrent shoppers, like not just people on the sites, but people trying to add to cart, creating baskets. Those are the computationally heavy transactional processes inside of the store system where you start reaching the limits of what that system can handle. So then there's all these different strategies for trying to have a queuing of some sort or invite people in waves, but adding any of those workarounds further complicates all of the processes. So you can't just jump to that. As I said, I could if it was just dylanshatshop.com, I could try something different. But when it has to work in all these places and fraud has to be there, like all the things need to work, you end up just having to find ways to handle more and more traffic. And unfortunately, we found you, which helped us out of a jam. So thank you.